Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB-AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. He's Ed Parker. We all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got a boatload of content to cover today. We're going to be talking about the Zillow Consumer Trends Report. Clear cooperation. The fight keeps going. I've got a very interesting observation about Inman News on that one. And then we're going to talk about Ed, his real estate career over the past few years, and what he's been doing to beat the trend and be part of Club 13, which is the 13% of agents that make it through their first few years in the business. So if you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team, you can do that with the link in the comments to talk to Sarah or myself or Ed or anybody else. So Ed and Sarah, it's been an interesting week with, there's been some natural disasters, especially down in Florida. We're seeing inventory dip down a little bit. It fell about 2,000 homes week over week, even though we peaked in 2024. Now, I'm clear a lot of that has to do with what's going on in Florida and some of the Sun Belt states, and hope they have a lot of, people can work through all that. What are you seeing with inventory now locally? What are your observations? I mean, it seems like that. What are your clients seeing? What are you seeing? Just going through your day to day.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. I have a couple clients that are targeting certain neighborhoods. So in those, which is pretty normal, they don't just all pop at once. So there's certain pockets where I'm not seeing a ton. For other people that have maybe a little bit more of a broad search setup, I mean, it's kind of exciting going on every day and seeing what else has come to the market. I'm definitely seeing things continue to hit.
I mean, I'm seeing with Philly.
Pull the mic closer to you, Ed. All right, there we go.
I mean, I'm seeing with Philly, things are just staying on the market a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but outside the city, people just want to get out. Those things go a lot quicker. I know days on market are really high in Philly. I know I have a listing in Philly. It's on market longer than I would want. But, I mean, we're doing the right things, price adjustments, things like that. Not everyone wants to do that in Philly. So things are kind of just sitting, it feels like.
It's Ed's first time on the radio here, guys. So you got to talk into the mic, not in the direction, my friend. So that being said, I think it's very accurate that some markets are a little different than others. You look at the suburb versus the city. We're talking about Florida, where a lot of things are going to be happening a little differently. So far this year, we've seen 39.62% of all the listings have had a price cut over the last week, compared to 38% the last week in 2023 and 42% in 2022. So are you finding you're having to have price adjustment conversations, Sarah?
Yes. I have had to have several of those. I know I have one listing that we did a price adjustment maybe about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are conversations that, depending on the home, we're having to have.
Not easy conversations. Ed, you said you had to get a couple of them. How'd that go for you? I mean, what was that like?
I mean, they're the tough conversations that no one wants to have. You don't want to have to tell a seller that other people don't really value your home the same way you do, or the price might be too high. And it's having those tough conversations, taking the feedback for what it is and explaining it to them.
So with that, I want to jump into this Zillow Consumer Trends Report, and we just covered this today, that if you look at the actual report and what consumers want right now from clients, there was a couple key takeaways here. So 93% of sellers and 85% of buyers, they're using an agent during their journey, which is reassuring, I think, for a lot of real estate agents. And when they talked about communication, this to me was pretty interesting, where if you look at the buyer side, 49% were talking to their agents on a weekly basis, 45% were talking to them on a daily basis. And communication was the first thing people looked for when they were hiring an agent on the listing side. It was number one. It was 80% of sellers hired an agent based on responsiveness. So do you feel like now that we're seeing the market is shifting a little bit, I don't think it's easy as selling homes as it used to be, right? So how are you using this data to better service your clients, especially if you got to have price reductions, inventory's rising? What are you saying to people? Let's talk about those conversations and what you're actually talking about, because sometimes there's nothing to talk about, which always is challenging.
Right. I mean, when I have a listing, one of the first conversations once we, they sign the documents and we're going to work together, is picking a weekly checkpoint time that we are always going to have a call at, Wednesday at 11 or whatever the day and time is, just so that that you can plan every week that we are going to be in touch. And then obviously if there's anything that comes up in between, we'll communicate. But I think having a set time is pretty important and makes people feel a little bit more comfortable.
So how's that worked out with your clients? Because I find that to be very important. I think it's one of the things you want to almost guarantee in the listing appointment. And it's usually the biggest concern about real estate agents, right? So how has that worked out for you when you're maybe having a listing that's not moving right away, or even when it does, or maybe you just got a high maintenance client or someone that's just nervous?
Right. So it sets some time aside to be able to review everything. If your maybe showings have kind of teetered off, or the feedback is, either price related or, even if it's something that the seller can't change, being able, you don't want to call them each time one of those comes through.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you don't want to call them, a couple times throughout the week saying oh, still aren't any showings, or, it's a nice time to be able to give a recap of the last week, also update them on what we're currently seeing in the marketplace, address any concerns they may have, address anything that's come up in feedback, and kind of come up with a game plan and set timelines for moving forward. All right, well, when we check in next week, if we still haven't had any showings, it gives them time to mentally prepare for conversations that we may need to have.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of future pacing. So do you find it eventually sinks in with the people that are serious?
Yes and no.
Tell me more, Sarah.
So definitely everybody has been over the years of doing this, everybody's always been very on board with having that weekly checkpoint. It kind of depends for the sellers, sometimes on the motivation or the urgency of the move or what their situation is. Sometimes even if the numbers are telling you and the data is pointing to maybe we need to do something to make an adjustment here. If they don't, it is ultimately their call, So it doesn't always, even if it's a thing that would get the home sold, not all sellers ultimately want to just sell their home. Some need other things to come into play.
So what do you guys attribute that to, Ed? I mean, you've been through this. I know you have as well, Sarah. I mean, what do you attribute hey, we know what we need to do, but we're just not doing it?
Sometimes it's financial, I need this number, or it's not worth me selling. Usually if it goes long enough, it's kind of that. There's somebody that maybe ultimately doesn't need to sell. Maybe they're going to turn around and rent the property, or maybe they're going to ultimately choose to stay in it. But usually if the data is pointing to, we would need to reduce this and they're not wanting to do that, it's because they don't ultimately need to sell it.
I agree with that. You're understanding each person's situation. Some listings I've had with investors, every situation is different. It all depends how much money they have into the home. How do we go about the price drops? Do we, just like you said, setting the expectation? I did that with just the last price drop we did now. I was hey, let's see how the weekend goes and have the conversation Monday and figure out what we need to do to get us closer to getting your home sold.
Well, and when it comes to that, right, I look at this whole report here, and there's so much good intel when you dive into it. The reality is that 78% of sellers list because there's a life-changing event. I mean, we talk about this all the time. If people aren't motivated, they're not going to move, and because of that, I mean, this is a data point that's out there. The people that are hey, if I get my price, or if the stars align, you've got to be even more confident you can deliver on that, because if there's not that motivation there, people just aren't going to do it. So right. I think that's a really great observation there. What other takeaways did you see from this report? What things stuck out to you that are going to help you maybe adjust your business or how you're talking to clients, or just your approach when it comes to the fourth quarter and 2025 and dealing with real estate agents?
I think with clients, figuring out early on what is their preferred method of communication. Just because I like to hop on the phone doesn't mean that they like to.
Good point.
So figuring out and kind of setting the stage for what is the best way to communicate, and then there are certain conversations that you just need to have either like in person or like at least on a phone call. So letting them, if it's somebody that does prefer email or text, letting them know that like there may be some conversations that do need to happen over the phone, and kind of so that they're prepped that when that needs to happen, like we need to figure out a time to make it happen.
I agree with that. I saw, and Ed, I want to get yours here in a second. If you look at the percentage of agents that hire the first person they speak with, or the first person they meet with, it is a lot lower than it used to be. Typically, that number was north of 70%. In 2024, it's 47% of buyers and 59% of sellers hired the first agent they contacted, even though that's a really high number. When it's down from 71, that tells me, especially on the purchase side, agents better be ready to interview for business, because, and I'd imagine this has something to do with some of these NAR changes that are happening, because, that number's substantially less. I mean, you're talking about, 20-some%, a little over, 11, 12% on the seller side. So what are you doing to win business? Do you have a buyer consult under control? Do you have a listing presentation locked and loaded? And how often are you practicing it to make it better? And I that was shocking to me to see that number drop as much as it did. And just anecdotally, I know there's a lot of people on our team that are kind of feeling that people are interviewing more and scrutinizing them more than they maybe were in the past. Ed, any takeaways from the Zillow, Consumer Trends Report?
I mean, my first thing was the same thing you were talking about, how sellers aren't taking the first agent they meet. That number's down. I just think it's lack of understanding with the NAR settlement. And do people not understand that how commission has always been negotiable? How low can they get it? Can they think they can get it lower from someone else? But then if you're doing that, you're kind of getting what you pay for. You're not going to get everything from the high resolution to the communication. You get what you pay for. And that's type of agent.
Well, there's probably a little of that, but I also think that now that you have to maybe pay these people, you might be a little more particular about who you use, right? Like how many times you heard, like I've had a bad experience with an agent when they bought the home and they don't want to use that person again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's something that sticks with you and you remember. I mean, I think that oftentimes you're more likely to remember bad experiences than good experiences when it's something like buying or selling a house. Because like things kind of fade with time, I think, a little bit. But if you had a very bad experience, you're going to remember that. If you had a great experience, you're probably going to remember that. If everything just like went fine, you kind of like forget about it a little bit. So, I think addressing if it was somebody who did have a bad experience in the past, kind of pinpointing exactly what happened and what are they worried about and how can you like take that off of them, make them feel better. Whether that's with case studies of similar situations with other clients, or just showing how our marketing plan would address maybe some of their concerns, and just, be prepared to say why you're able to do the job if others couldn't, or if others did it in a way they didn't like before.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And you look at this data, like it tells you what to do, right? Like so many people, they worry about price and commission and all these other things. When you look at what the consumers actually care about, I mean, 58% of buyers felt that one of the most valuable things was their agent helping them decide the details of the offer. That has nothing to do with commission or terms. It has to do with helping me get the house, right? So that's number one. We talked about 80% of sellers, they're looking at responsiveness and trustworthiness. If you see that, focus on building those things and making sure you're hitting on that stuff or having processes in place that are going to showcase that, because when you focus on the stuff you're concerned about, the people don't really care that much, right? So there's a lot of good data here. This report's really helpful. And to me, it's when you meet clients with where they're at and give them what they want, they're going to be more likely to use you. It's a numbers game. It's not always going to work. You're going to have sellers that don't sell. You two both mentioned it. You're going to have buyers that maybe don't want to work with you, but you're going to win more than you lose. And that's really the most important thing when it comes to real estate here.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we are going to be talking about this clear cooperation battle that is going on and on. This is like replace the NAR settlements, Sarah. Like we used to talk about that every week.
Yeah.
Now it's this nonsense. I've got a very interesting observation about Inman here I want to share in a second. When we come back, we'll be right back on Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender, NMLS 1285001.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us, it's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender, NMLS 128501.
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. He's Ed Parker. And we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about this clear cooperation debate that is going back and forth with all sorts of influential people in the real estate industry. And then we're also going to chat about how Ed has survived the 87% failure rate in real estate. Very proud of you, my man. Looking forward to diving into that in the third segment. So, clear cooperation, if you don't know what it is, it's the rules in place from NAR, the National Association of Realtors, that require listings get put into the MLS within a business day, and then there's some exclusions. We don't need to go through this. And this debate has been going back and forth now. I mean, you're seeing Zillow come out and speak about it. You're seeing the EXP CEO come out and speak about it. And then there was an article on Inman News that says that with these two policy or without these two policy changes, that's one of them. Clear cooperation might be that might open things up to the more antitrust suits in real estate. So, and now there was some interesting data. I thought I want to start here. 55% of respondents in a survey that was done with by the WAV group, WAV, the post settlement survey. They feel that 55% that the MLS is much less valuable with the offer of compensation removed. So you got this stuff going on. And now there's an association. It's the Park City Board of Realtors told NAR they're not going to require agents to comply with the pocket listing rule because they're worried about litigation. So obviously everyone's all over the board here. Mm-hmm. Sarah, what do you think about this? I mean, this is going on and on here with more inaction by NAR. And, I'd love all these people to focus on selling houses. They're not going to do that. They're going to talk about this. But what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, do we know what NAR's response was when they said we're not going to do that?
Well, I think so. They have like another meeting coming up. I don't know when it is. And let me look this up here. remember they said they're going to meet again. Like they had the big meeting, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to make any changes. We're just going to meet later." So, it seems like my feeling on this is that NAR without the MLS, they're kind of screwed,
right?
And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. So if they let this go, they might become less relevant. Now they also have vowed to take this DOJ reopening of the investigation to the Supreme Court, which, I think there's some very pro-business justices on there right now that may support them on that because it's unheard of. And if that happens, I think that might make them more relevant again. That's a big if. So, right now, no news would be to answer your question.
Right. Because, if they aren't going to do anything until they meet again to kind of decide how they want to move forward with it, I wouldn't be surprised if other places kind of said the same thing.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. It was very interesting. They had Zillow on lock a couple weeks ago, and Zillow came out and they were very pro clear cooperation. Mm-hmm. Any guesses why that is? Because without clear cooperation, they're in a lot of trouble, right? And then Susan Daimler has this article on Inman News and is talking about how important it is. And I don't know what's up with Inman News. All of a sudden we're seeing all these op-eds come out, and it's like, when did they become the place where everyone voices their opinion here? I don't. Right. It seems a little unusual to me that they're pushing this out and they're letting these CEOs and business leaders in real estate just use them as a platform rather than go to other places. But maybe that's their strategy for keeping their subscriptions up. I don't know.
Sure.
I just can't. I can't get over how many they've had. 2 Robert Refkin articles, a Leo Perea article. So that's the CEO of Compass and the CEO of EXP, respectively. They've got Susan Daimler doing looks like an interview with them, and it looks like that was and then quoting her blog posts. So, it's just all very interesting to me that this is where people are going to go voice all this. Right. So, Ed, you had some opinions about this. Tell us about clear cooperation.
I actually agree. I don't think anyone should. I actually agree. I don't think any seller.
Agree with what? Let's be more specific.
The local realtor association not wanting to enforce the clear cooperation. I just don't think if a seller told me, hey, I don't want an MLS, all right, well, it's your house. It's your decision. I'll explain to you how I think it could help, but ultimately it's your decision. You don't want it on there? We don't have to put it on there. But that's just how I look at it. No one should be forced to do anything, especially if they're selling their property. You paid money for this. You should make that decision, not some association.
Well, that's been the common sense approach, right? Robert Refkin saying the same thing. And the problem is they're limiting people's options. And the vast majority of the time, I hope we can all agree, going to the MLS is the right move for sellers. Unless there's a privacy issue or some reason you want to sell it off market that's different than maximizing the price and getting the best terms, I would recommend the MLS. And we see that data backed up by the off MLS study with Bright that shows 13 to 17%. That shows you can sell your home for 13 to 17% less if you're not using the MLS. So that's very clearly there. I just don't understand why they this is such an issue. And if the DOJ is targeting it, why not just get rid of it? I don't understand the big debate about all this here.
Have you, in all of your years of listing homes, had many people that have said they do not want to be on the MLS?
I've had people say it without understanding.
Okay.
They're like, oh, well, we'll sell it off market or we'll sell it private. And I said, great. I'm like, so what's your goal there? What's your intent? Let's go a little deeper. And then when they realize it's not going to help, it doesn't, the best way is always to go to the MLS. So it has come up once or twice. Now I've heard the objection a lot, for sale by owners or expired listings, but they end up going back to the MLS anyway, the vast majority of the time. Private sales, there was a home that sold privately that Josh Krabinski from our team was working on. He was working on getting the listing. When he saw what they sold it for, we both said they probably lost $200,000.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
$200,000. And this was this was priced around $1 million. I think it ended up selling for $950,000. And we know the house, and it's wow. And then you see that happen over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've had any different experience there. Right.
Yeah, I think that people just think okay, if I do this on my own, that's where I'm going to save all of the money. That's how I'm going to walk out of this, in the best position possible. But when you see what they actually went for, and then you know what proper marketing and getting all the right people through could have gotten them. It's just it's a big difference.
That's exactly what happened. I helped my investor buy his personal home in Westchester. It was some wannabe investor, bought the house, threw some paint up, paid $400 to have some other agent put it on the MLS, didn't do any marketing, took pictures on his iPhone 7, and the house sat for months in the Westchester School District.
Yeah.
We got it literally $200,000, probably less than what it should have went for. He put money into it. Now it's worth $400,000 more than he bought it for 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and this data's out there and it's documented. Now, there are some cases where you get a private offer and it's like, wow, like I should take this. And I've told people to do that. I mean, just knowing the market. So you want to look at it that way too. I just don't understand. Like, I mean, I get it. Like Zillow, I know why they're against. They want to keep this in place because they're going to be screwed, and without having all those homes on their website.
Right.
What Leo Perea is an interesting one because he's with EXP, and we've talked about this where they're very anti-cooperating on like the cooperating compensation, but they want you to cooperate here, and that's just being hypocritical, if you ask me.
Right.
I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Right,
like It's like saying, hey, Sarah, I want like, I can't even think of a good example, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. You just can't have it both ways. And now you've got this local association coming out, and I think this is going to be interesting because if you got local associations coming out and saying, hey, like we're not going to do this, and they're breaking away from NAR, I mean, who's to say there's not going to be more that follow? And here's some of the quotes here. So they informed NAR that their policy committee met and decided on, or they were informed that, we informed NAR that until their policy committee met and decided on potential changes that we would not be adhering to the policy. Due to core standard requirements from NAR, we told them we would wait until their policy committee had discussions before we would make any formal announcements to our membership at large. And now they're doing that. At the time, we were not enforcing the policy, but honestly, we did not have any fees for agents breaking this policy in the past either. If someone called in about an agent that they felt was in violation, we just contacted the agent and asked them to get the listing in the MLS, and always have. Very pragmatic approach there. I appreciate that they're taking the reasonable approach instead of the automatic fine, which we see from a lot of MLSs, including Bright. Our normal MLS policy still requires an agent with a listing agreement to put the listing in the MLS unless they have a signed right to withhold form. And any communication that I have with the National Association is between me and the National Association when Inman asked for more news. And that was kind of it. So
if they have a right to withhold form signed, does NAR, like, are there certain things that they will say, like, no, you don't qualify to sign it? But, like, do they scrutinize or, like, look into it all? Like, what requirements need to be in place for a seller to sign that?
Well, what they're asking for is that it like still gets put into the MLS, and it's like an office exclusive, so it doesn't appear on the MLS only. It's all very convoluted.
But they just want it in there so the data's in there.
Yes, I think that's part of the play here, but it's also just an arbitrary rule that somebody came up with, and I'm all for transparency in the market. I want to be really clear. Like I don't see a lot of upside for this. I just don't understand what the debate's about. Like this is one of those things. I look at it and I try to be pretty, a person of common sense. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Common sense, I feel like, doesn't really apply to agencies like this, though. Like I'm rooting for them to win this. It's gonna be a great case study for any other agency out there, any other brokerage that's really watching that they want to break away. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, they're just breaking away from the policy, to be clear. And, I mean, they're also coming from Park City, where I think that's a market where you might see more of these quiet listings because it's a vacation home market. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty pricey area. California's another example, like especially out in like L.A. and along the West Coast. And, your normal home, your normal market, I don't see a lot of upside to this. It typically tends to be people that have like a privacy request more than anything else.
Sure.
So do you think anything's going to happen with NAR? They're going to actually do something here, Sarah and Ed. What do you guys think?
Well, so wait, when is their next meeting coming up?
I think it's like next week.
Okay. I kind of feel like they're going to come back and say that they've scheduled another meeting for a few more weeks down the road, and that they will address some of the things that they don't answer next week at, they're going to need another meeting. They're going to kick it down the road.
Even though it's their job to.
Right.
Yeah.
That is probably the most accurate thing that I think could happen here, Sarah. I like your analysis here where they're like, oh, we'll meet next time. And then they're under so much pressure now, though. Like if I was NAR, what I would be doing is I wouldn't be changing anything until I see who wins this election because they've already had this DOJ investigation get rolled back once. The last time there was an election coming up, and that was way more in advance. You got less than a month to get through here. Like you just kick it a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And with what they're doing with taking the DOJ overruling to the Supreme Court, you want to wait till that happens. Like you want to buy some time here because that NAR has just been doing a horrible job all year long, longer than a year. And if they're not smart enough to realize like you got to wait to see who wins, I think they're in a bad spot. That's the only way they even salvage their reputation, in my view. So let's say they get this DOJ decision overruled. They can't reopen the case. Would that change your opinion of NAR?
Not really.
So tell me more. Tell me more.
I don't know if it should or not, but I think it would be, good for them for like going back and fighting to get it overturned. But like they've got so many different things going on with them right now that like ultimately unless if they like get uncoupled from a couple of these things, I feel like they're just spread pretty thin and it's just like it's too much to be able to actually accomplish anything. So I guess I would be maybe expecting more from them down the line if they were able to get that overturned. It should free them up to be able to resolve some of their other issues.
That's a good point. And they have gotten rid of all that leadership, so I think that helps. Mm-hmm. Ed, what about you? What do you think? Would that change your opinion of NAR if they were successful in their appeal to the Supreme Court?
I think it would set a tone. I think it would put some happiness out in the industry a little bit. But, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are already kind of fed up with them. I don't know how much they could really move forward, but I would set your expectations to a limit with them.
It would change my opinion because I have such a low one of them right now. I mean, they have petitioned the Supreme Court over the DOJ probe. I do agree that I think it's not just about NAR either. I mean, if this gets allowed, right, you're questioning a lot of things about contracts. And we have enough people that don't listen to their contracts anyway, and then we have to explain to them over and over again, like, hey, this is what it says. This is what you agreed to.
Right.
So if they can, it would be good for business, in my view. I mean, it looks like it's going to the Supreme Court. I mean, the writ of certiorari is going to be filed early October, and then we'll see if they hear the case or not. It would change my opinion, but they've still got a lot of work to do to become a better association to govern, the real estate industry.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We are going to come back and talk about how Ed is part of Club 13. We'll explain what that means next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender, NMLS 12850.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestateScholarshipProgram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB-AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. He's Ed Parker. We all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are going to talk about how Ed has had a breakthrough year selling a whole bunch of real estate. And, you know, I'd like to say you're part of Club 13, Ed. So if people don't know what that means, I think you do. There's 87% of agents fail in their first 5 years. And what is it, 75% in the first year?
Yep.
Right? So you're right there rocking and rolling, man. Congratulations. So tell us a little bit of background for the people that don't know you, what you did before real estate, what you're doing now, and let's jump in.
Well, I look as 13 as a good luck number, so I'm happy to be part of
I
that
like
club.
it. All right.
So it's a long list, resume, whatever you want to call it, going from community college to construction to sales to the military, security, and I'm now in real estate. So kind of jack of all trades, a little bit of everything. So I think my background with doing construction and doing those things helps me when I'm looking at houses and helping the buyer or seller identify certain things.
What
So
type of construction did you do?
I honestly was just a helper for a handyman for a couple of years.
Okay.
Under
Yeah.
the table money.
Very hard work.
Yeah. No, that would definitely be very beneficial when looking at different houses, being able to identify potential issues, or if there's something that looks scary and then, actually this isn't that big of a deal, this is how you would fix it. That would be very, very helpful.
Somewhat fix it. Can't help with everything, but I help with
Right.
enough. And that's why I like working with investors.
Mm-hmm.
I can help figure out how much something can cost when I'm calculating that when I'm looking for a property from the flip.
Mm-hmm.
So it's helped me in that department a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I like working with investors right now.
The military background's interesting to me because, the military is not something I was cut out for. Like, I would be chopped liver there. And at the same time, they teach you a lot of, really important, personal principles there. So have you found that experience is translated into what you're seeing now in terms of success?
I do, somewhat. Just from being able to be more critical of myself, identify something to work on, and identify strengths. And I wish I could be a little bit better at the schedule like I was then, but it definitely has helped me enough in this department.
Well, I think you're also being honest with yourself, right? Like, that's a lot of it. I mean, everyone, people, you ever meet someone, they're like, oh, yeah, it's going great. And you're like, no, it's not. Like,
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. You got to get real with the brutal facts in what's going on and where you can get better. That's awesome, Ed. That's very cool. I mean, not a lot of people think that way.
Would you say are most of the clients that you work with, both on the purchase side and on the sell side, investors?
I wouldn't say all, but I know I've had some great success, especially this year. Like, I just got 2 properties under contract with an investor now. Mm-hmm. The last couple months, I've had a few listings with a couple investors. I have another listing with another investor. So, I have a good run with investors. They like me. I like them.
Yeah.
I know not a lot of other agents like working with investors, but that doesn't really scare me. I don't mind doing multiple showings or writing 10 offers because I know eventually it's going to get accepted. And then I'm going to list that house.
Right.
So it's kind of 2 for 1. I look at the long term with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like the repeat business from getting in and having a good relationship with one solid investor is something that just keeps coming back time and time again.
Like me and you, we worked together with that one listing in Yaden.
Yep.
That we was on the market for 2 or 3 weeks. That was a flip. Worked with him on the buy and the sell side.
Yeah.
It's a lot better to sell. The buy side, dealing with some of those foreclosures, those agents, the banks.
Yeah.
They're not fun.
Right,
But
right.
the sell side's a lot better.
For sure.
So, And, you got into real estate at a very interesting time, and it was like November of 2021, which was like white hot. Like you show up, sometimes like the house just like you're there, the house sells. Now the market's a lot different a few years later. So what have you learned over that time? Because there's a lot of agents that just threw in the towel and they're out.
I mean, when I first started, it was already pre-approved. You're not? All right, well, let's talk to a lender, and if you're pre-approved, we'll be good to go. If not, well, once you're ready, I'll be ready. Now you need to meet with a client because you need to get with them face-to-face. If you're not meeting with them face-to-face, they're going to go work with someone else. Other things I've found is setting the expectation, communication, things like that. It's just things you just wouldn't expect and how important it really has to be. Because I find communication with myself. Like if clients don't call me back for months, it's like, I expect that, but you have to be there for them no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Were you at that Luke Ackery training that we just had where he said that you have to be there when your clients don't want to transact and that's what builds trust?
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, well, that definitely sounds like me. I definitely enjoyed that training. He's a good follow even on social media now.
So what do you attribute your staying power in real estate to? I mean, you got this very diverse background. I think a lot of that stuff helps. And if you want to get in touch with Ed, his website, it's ed.tomtoole.com. You can go right there to connect with him. And he's at Eddie_Parker31 on Instagram if you want to give him a follow. So
both are pretty easy to spell.
Yes. I mean, the easiest
Very
last name
short
out of
to
the
the
three of
simple.
us. It's got an IE, not a Y. So, I mean, you've been in the business a long time now, and you've seen some stuff. So, what are like some of the lessons for maybe people that are trying to break through that you want to share with them? Because you've definitely seen a lot, and I think it's very interesting getting some perspective now versus 3 years ago at this point.
Some of the things is make friends with who you work with because you're going to have to vent and go to someone for advice and let some things out. Because some clients can be very stressful. Likewise, you probably stress them out as well. But some of the things that really benefit me is patience, building trust, a relationship with a client in general, like myself, and just being a genuine human because you want to be honest and transparent. People see that. They want to work with someone like that. If you're not yourself, they'll see right through you. They'll see that and then move on to the next person. They just go right back on Zillow or Redfin or something, click talk with agent. So you want to leave that good first impression and let them know that you're there for them. You don't need to buy the house today, but if you buy from a year from now, I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be there to help you. It's about you, not about me. And you don't want to come off, honestly, money hungry.
Right.
People can smell that and sense that immediately.
Commission breath. Yeah, I totally agree. So I love that, Ed. So what do you like? What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you so far? I mean, real estate's got some interesting stuff that goes on.
From agents leaving codes on the lockbox, not locking doors.
That's not that interesting. That's not weird. That I would say that's normal.
Clients screaming at you when they're not happy, just things like that. A lot of driving.
Very uneventful answer here.
So with doing a decent amount of, either like foreclosures or places that like are going to be flips, condition wise, have you ever felt like unsafe in any, like meaning like this staircase may fall down while I'm walking up it?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one house we found where a squatter lived, but at the time his stuff wasn't there. So
Yeah.
we were about to settle in the house the next day. So we barricaded the back door with some of the stuff so he couldn't come back in. So once
God.
we owned it, it wasn't our squatter now.
Right.
He was locked outside. So I know that was a funny story. That's with the investor I've done 6 or 7 deals with now.
Wow.
So we have a good relationship to where we've driven to some properties together in his car.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
That is a sign of a good relationship. So to give you some perspective, Ed's got 19 sales on the book so far this year, just around $8.25 million. So incredible numbers here. And I'm a big believer you're just getting started and we're just ramping things up. So knowing what you know now, I mean, what like anything like, if you were to like do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
There's a few things I would do differently. Can't discuss some of those on the radio, but some other things.
I think I know what you're talking about, Ed.
Now, a couple of things is just keep doing what I've been doing. Every year, besides last year, has gradually improved, and I plan on doing more. I'm very close to hitting my goals for this year. I've already hit my volume goal, trying to get to the deal goal. But other than that, I just want to keep improving. Just like I told you when I first started, this is plan A. There is no plan B.
Mm-hmm.
That mindset goes a long way for sure. Looks like we're getting played out here. So you want to follow Ed, you can reach him on his website. It's ed.tomtoole.com or he's at Eddie, EDDIE _Parker31. On Instagram, you can follow Sarah. She's at Ty_Ty Time. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. And we will be back next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.